Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian from Tribeca Trade Group, and this is your end of day and end of week recap. What a interesting way to close the week. Jobs data today, and as well as some pretty good price action to close the week ahead of a very large macro and data intensive week for next week. So I want to go over today's performance and this week's performance, and then we can talk a little bit about next week. But pretty nice in terms of how we closed out the week. There's not a lot to really complain about here. The small caps led for the day. The Qs were also up 40 basis points. That's a nice rally from the open. You could see, as always in the spreadsheet, you could see percentage change from the open. By the way, risk disclaimer in front of you, everything that we're going through is for information purposes only, not giving any advice or recommendations. And also, before I forget, if you want to know a little bit more about Tribeca Trade Group, first of all, you can go right to our website, TribecaTradeGroup.com. You could put in your email address here, and you can get a glimpse of our end of day recaps for a few days, right? It's free. You are welcome to do that. And of course, if you're ready to trade, you can go right to our services and products page and get involved. And in terms of our analysis, and I always like to be the first in terms of spotting trends and spotting relative strength in this market, and I think we've done a pretty good job of that this year, and certainly in the past. So let me get away from that. Let's get back to the performance for the week. So the crypto stocks, amazing, pretty amazing breakout. I'm going to talk about them first, do a little something different for the week, because that was one of your best performances areas of performance for the week. I mean, that's a really nice continuation. We were doing this kind of choppy kind of back and forth there for a couple weeks, but that resolved in the direction of the trend, and this is continuing to trend outside of its value area for the year. And next thing I see is 47,655. Keep in mind, this is Bitcoin futures. This is not spot Bitcoin. But Bitcoin futures, 47,655. And then Ethereum too, which we could talk about too. I own a little bit of both of these. The next area of resistance, this is not trading outside of its value area. This is trading inside of its value area. That's fine. This has still been making a nice move. And that's 25.31 in Ethereum futures. Those are the levels to watch. Let's talk about this S&P range. Did we finally break the range of what we've been trading at all week long? To some extent, yes. And I think we broke out of the value area and for December. So that's a step in the right direction. Not a huge monumental step, but it's definitely a move. And we've got one more virgin point of control that's up here, which is all the way back from those previous highs for this. Wait, let me see, for this year, right? Of course, here's where the highs are, all-time highs, but this is just the virgin point of control from not the beginning of the year, but from July. So we'll see how price handles that if we get there. What I was you've heard me talk about this all week long about how we were kind of just trading in a range. Well, this SPY did eke out a gain for the week. It was only drum roll, 24 basis points was the performance for the week, but there was a lot of trade, there's plenty of trading opportunities. Something that I kind of just reinforced this whole week was that I didn't really think that we were going to have a big move ahead of the Friday's jobs reports, as well as all that data that we're going to get next week. But we closed on the highs of the week, so I mean that's something. But yes, a lot of back and forth price action for the week, right? This is something that I try to reinforce too, just to be kind of strategic in your trading this week. Not chasing, selling on the open. We had a big conversation earlier today in today's Q&A about how over time the majority of the moves are happen in the overnight market, right? So buying the close and selling the open is much better than doing it the other way around, right? A lot of times younger traders, they're ready to start the day and the market opens and they're buying on the open. Well, now, of course, you could scalp and the market could push higher from there, but ultimately what I try to do and try to reinforce a lot of the times is, if you've got swing trade positions and the market opens up hot in the first, half hour or so, especially when we're going like this, when we're going sideways like we have been for the last 3 weeks, even though it's got a little bit of a trajectory to the upside, right? Selling those opening gaps is very important. It gives you a lot of flexibility. And again, that's where the market, that's where you really make a good portion of your money, is selling in those first 15 minutes rather than trying to add positions. So that played out really well. And we could look at so that's the S&P. Let's go through all the indices really quickly. Q, same thing. They finished positive for the week. They had some issues with resistance there yesterday, but we managed to get above. Now, we're not above like the multiple weeks highs, right? This has been flat out sideways. So again, you've had to be really, the word that I'll use is strategic in the last couple of weeks with how you're trading this, because again, if you're chasing those strong days, that may not have worked out so well for you. But if you've been a little bit more patient with this market and selling at the right times, then it's probably worked out for you pretty decently. And the small caps, which outperformed for the day, right? They led for the week, I believe. But again, for the week, kind of a sideways type move after this big move. Remember, this big move was on Friday of last week. So, this market sometimes makes these gains in bunches. We certainly have seen that for the small caps a couple times. Big move here, sideways, 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 big move here. So again, have to be patient with this market. I did want to cover one other chart too on the macro side, and then we can talk about where I'm going to go through about, I don't know, 8 to 10 charts. I'll do it quickly so that I'm not taking up too much of your weekend and you can get to some holiday festivities. But I will go through some areas that really showing some really nice strength. So bonds, no, I don't need to show you the 1 hour chart for this. I think this is going to be really interesting for next week because we tested that bond of value, right? This is 30-year bond futures, right? So again, it has nothing to do with the Fed per se, right? When everybody talks about interest rates and whether or not they're going to cut and raise, right? That's the overnight rate. This is the opposite of that. This is 30-year bond futures. So, and there will be a bond auction next week in both, I think, the 10-year and the 30-year. That's another event for next week. Also notice TLT closing right around that bottom of value. Again, their TLT and the 30-year bond futures are going to be similar because they're both longer duration, just a little bit different maturities there, of course. But watch this 93.42 level. So those are going to be the two things to kind of watch in terms of, as always with macro, is watching what the dollar is doing and watching what bonds are doing. So I've mentioned that a couple times about all the events for next week. Let me see if I can bring this up really quickly before I get to this week's performance. This should not be too far away in this, but I had this earlier for members. We gave a whole big thing in here, but these are some of the events for next week. Right, I'll just show you the first page of this. But yeah, we've got the CPI report. We've got the PPI report. You've got a Fed meeting on Wednesday. You also have retail sales. You also have bond auctions next week. And then you also have this little thing called quadruple witching on Friday too, which it's really 3 that you have to worry about. There's monthly options expiration, right? Then there's also futures contracts that expire on the open of Friday morning. And you get all the index rebalancing, right? Where all of the S&P and the NASDAQ, either market cap weighted, equally weighted indices like XRT and XHB, XBI, all of those get reweighted. It's a quarterly being quarterly reweighted, right? That happens every December, March, June, and September. So that happens as well. So that's a lot to handle for the week. It makes me think a lot about where we are in terms of sentiment, right? Also, where the Santa Claus, of course, this is Jeffrey Hirsch, Almanac Trader, talking about the Santa Claus rally. Of course, remember that the Santa Claus rally is not now. It's not next week. Right? It's the last 5 trading days. It's the 5 trading days after the 22nd. It's actually the 7 trading days after the 22nd, which happens to be the 5 days after Christmas and 2 days in the beginning of 2024. So that's what we have on tap. Could we get some sideways action with all those data points? We could, and I can't really tell you what we're going to get next week. I'm not a predictor of economic data, so that'll just be something that we talked earlier in the trading room about is positioning and making some adjustments for next week. So I won't go into that. You have to be a member for that, but I do have that video for you. We also talked about a lot of strategy as the market has been trading a bit sideways too. So we covered all of that. Let me get to a couple of the, I mentioned I would get to the sectors for the week, right? So let me bring this back up. Sorry. It's been a long week. It has been a long week. So bear with me just a second and I'll bring this page back up. But here you go. Here's the performance for the week. SPY, like I said, was just up a little bit. Same thing with the diamonds. IWM outperformed, up 1%. Qs, 60 basis points. International was down a little bit. I think that has to do with Japan over and with the EFA because the DAX did make new highs, new all-time highs, by the way. Bonds were up 1.8% for this week. Crazy with the gold and between gold and Bitcoin. Both were kind of raging on Sunday, going into Monday, basically. And I thought this chart was really interesting. This is Bitcoin versus gold. Notice the breakout that you've got. Gold did finish down 3%. Again, I've been talking about gold and silver are really tricky, and I kind of stay away from things that continuously act tricky. So that's where I am with that. But look at the home builders, right? I still don't think the home builders get that much attention, other than people are like, yeah, the home builders are strong. I don't want to chase them. Da 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 da. But I tell you, this is where some of the strongest groups are. I mean, and this just broke out. Remember, this was going sideways after the CPI data pushed this up on 11/14, November 14th, about 2 weeks of sideways price action. And look at the strong breakout. You just don't have that many areas that are doing that, right? That are out to all-time highs like that. You could go through sector by sector. Of course there are, but I just don't think the home builders get the respect. And if you go through a couple of these charts, it's pretty amazing. Now, Toll Brothers results helped. That's out to new highs. Pulte, which I own, is out to new highs. DHI, right? They all kind of look the same, don't they? It's kind of interesting how that's what you want to see, by the way, when you look at a sector ETF, right? And you start to go through the components and you see all of them doing this, just shows how strong this group is and how it's confirming. Look at Lennar, by the way. So what a dominant group right now. And I know that there's various different other areas, but I would say in terms of like, one of the things that is most impressive is the move that you have in the home builders. Another group that I thought which got a lot of attention this week, and let's see if it's on it was not up that much this week comparatively. It was only up about 1%, but most of that performance was over the last couple of days. So I like the turn that happened here. Remember, this did fill the gap. Took a little bit, to kind of get going, but I really like this ARM, which I've been long now for a few weeks. I stayed in this, even though, I mean, look at the, kind of there's a lot of tricks, I think, a lot of trickiness this week. ARM, and the one thing that's where the value areas really helped me, because I was like, I don't like that candle that happened on Wednesday, but we didn't break the value area at all. So, sometimes you could have these really one-day days of price action, but, as long as we don't break trend, I tend to try is the key to stay in those names as long as they don't break through the top of value like that. Broadcom, on the flip side, had a nice end of day move, nice volume today for Broadcom too. And, this move didn't really happen until, towards the end of the day, where this kind of took off in the last 2 hours of the trading session. So, yes, there's a 5-minute VPOC there where it kind of stalled, but really like that move. And it's pretty, it's pretty what's textbook, I would say, right? You had this breakout of the range, right? And then you basically have a retest, right? And now it's resolving higher again. So I definitely think that that's pretty good. And then just to go through another, just, a few other charts that I found that were pretty impressive was Arista Networks also broke back out, right? This is another name that's kind of been going sideways here a little bit, right? Pretty nice green bar to get you out to new highs. Another one which I know is a popular name, VRT, also had a nice day. This name has been tough because it's had a lot of these I looked at this and I was like, I'm not because I wasn't in it today, and I looked at it and it was up about 2%. And I'm like, I know this name. It doesn't close on the highs very often. It usually does one of these. So I'm like, I'm not going after this name today. And sure enough, it closed on the highs. So very nice price action there. Also, Lilly, I think, might be setting up for next week, right? Again, consolidation in an uptrend, right? This has been one of the best performers. This is one of the magnificent seven stocks that everybody talks about. I'm just kidding. It's not, but it should be, because it's been one heck of a performer this year. But it might be setting up to take that next leg higher, right? And of course, Nvidia too, which I've been a little bit sour on because it's been just a lot of sideways the last couple months, but since earnings, that's the nicest candle that we've seen so far, and that is a break into its value area for December. So you can be long this versus 470 if you so choose to. Another name that's been really nice break out of consolidation here is Power, right? Quanta Services, nice move there. Affirm, I mean, again, here's another example of like a very ugly looking, toppy looking candle, but notice we didn't break the 5-period moving average. Just probably shook some people out a little bit, but notice it closed right back at the highs. Super strong. And then the last group that I'll talk about is the cyber stocks really quickly. Crowd, slower mover up here, but definitely moving in the right direction. And I have to say this Palo Alto has been definitely impressive. Consolidation there for a few days. I don't even think that's a full week, but a few days and strong. And then I'll just last one to kind of leave you with, I think, is this this little company called Apple. That's also pushing out here, spent some time consolidating. Talked about how that Virgin point of control put in a short-term top one day this week. I think that was Tuesday, really got going. And I have to say that chart does not look bad. Also, just kind of rounding this out, the banks were strong again this week. Biotech had gains. The gold miners got clobbered this week. Energy stocks did the same too. So again, not everything went up this week. Solar stocks down another 4% this week. Metals and mining topped out. They were down 4%. Mentioned energy. Steel names were weak as well. All right, and here's your international performers as well. All right, guys, that is it. Have a great weekend, and hope you're doing fun to celebrate some pre-holiday celebrations or holiday celebrations as well. So, guys, have a great weekend, and hope to see you in the trading room. Take care.